Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, when I recently attended the last sports show, there was certain things that struck me that, I talked about a couple other things about the swim baits that are a hot new item, the record attendance that has taken place at these sports shows because people are craving to get back outdoors. But another thing that really struck me now, one of the couples that live here in our area, his name is Chris and his wife's name is Christina, and they have the A-Bay Lure Lab in Alex Bay. And I became a friend with Chris a few years ago when I was doing Fishing Behind the Lines, my TV show. And Chris was a wounded warrior, a veteran that had gone through his own experiences in the service representing our country. And Chris contacted me and he says, I want you to look at the lures that I'm making, and I'm making them. My whole goal was to get out of the service and to make lures that veterans, that soldiers that have come to Fort Drum or whatever can afford. And he has this incredibly artistic talent. And so he's made these lures. Again, his company's called A-Bay for Alex Bay Lure Lab. And they're beautiful, hard plastic lures. But to see where he's come with this company and building these beautiful lures, and when I say beautiful, I'm telling you, they're works of art. And they also are works of incredible attractiveness to fish because I've caught so many fish on these lures. Okay, so Chris and Christina set up a booth in Boxborough, and they brought these beautiful lures. And their prices were so low compared to all the other places that you could buy the same type of lure for 4 times the amount of money, and it wasn't really painted as beautifully as Chris's lures are. But people would come up to these other booths, and they would perceive that these expensive $100 lures were better than the $20 beautiful works of art that Chris was selling. And again, I wanted to mention this because this is a company from our area that was founded on the premise to provide a service and a tool that would help fishermen in this area become better fishermen, that would give soldiers that didn't have that much of an income a chance to buy lures and not pay the overinflated prices. And yet people think the more something costs, the better it is. I saw the same thing with fishing rods. Now, a cheap fishing rod was $100, and there were a number of them that were $200 and $300 at these booths, and people thought they were a bargain. But they wanted to buy the more expensive ones. I don't know. I guess, I don't want to rant on about this because I did in another report that I gave. But I wanted to give credit to Chris and Christina for doing something special, something that they did for other people that, like themselves, had gone through a lot of struggles in life. Their lures are some of the most beautiful lures I've ever seen. So what I would suggest, you go online and you look for A-Bay Lure Lab, A-Bay Lures, and that's a big capital A and then Bay for Alex Bay Lures. And you take a look at these lures, and you could go right locally and buy these from Chris and Christina. And I'll tell you what, I remember a couple years ago when I started using his lures, and Russ Eddy and I were fishing one of our areas along the St. Lawrence, and I had one of the long sort of jerk baits that Chris makes. And Chris, at the time I had a Camaro that was orange, and Chris made the lure, and he says, "This is your Camaro." Made it to represent the color, and it was sort of just half jokingly about me. And so I started using that lure, and I was catching fish, and Russ was looking and shaking his head. What in the world are you using? And I let Russ start using it. And then Russ got one just like it from Chris, and it became one of our weapons that we used. And bottom line, these lures are good. You ought to take a look at them. And again, I want to give credit to those people in our area that have helped made fishing even better and helped us to do the things that we do. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.